what I'm trying to do is, because obviously you can see we have many, many questions. Some of them relate to similar topics, so I've tried to group them. Might ask kind of a general question that addresses several different cards. And this one is there anything that Congress can do to push forward offshore drilling in this country?
Yes, there is. It's a great question. As I just got back in town on Friday night, went to fill up my Tahoe, and it was an $80 gas bill. I was like, man, somebody in Congress ought to do something about that. The issues with oil, number one, again, goes back to the fact that after the BP oil spill, the president signed a moratorium on drilling in the Gulf, which certainly didn't help matters. We've got the issue with oil coming from areas that are in a little bit of turbulence right now over the Middle East. So we have to exploit every possible opportunity that we have for domestic oil. And we've got plenty. We've got not only the Gulf, we've got the coastal shelf, where many states want to start drilling off their own coast. We still have Anwar that we've been debating about for years as to whether or not we should start drilling up there. The Republicans in the House have done a letter to the president encouraging the president, one, to open the moratorium in the Gulf, and two, to begin allowing leases for drilling in the continental shelf. Now, and the issue is that decision, unfortunately, rests at the White House. We can cajole, we can prod, we can try to add that into another bill as a condition of passing, use it as a negotiation tool, but ultimately it rests at the White House. So we're doing what we can do by trying to cajole him into opening up other areas. Of course, that side is very intimately involved with the environmental lobby, which is opposing that in every possible term. But rest assured, I'm an all-the-above energy guy. I think we've got, don't forget, people think about oil just in their gas, gas in their gas tank, but it's everything. Things that are manufactured, how it impacts on your food, things that are transported. I mean, oil has a far-reaching effect more than just your gas tank. And so we've got to start weeding our dependence on oil in general, and we've got to start doing more at home, and the Republicans in the House have been pushing the president to do just that.
In that same regard, is there any thought to cutting the aid we give to foreign countries for oil drilling as well as other things?
Well, the foreign aid that we don't necessarily give any foreign aid for drilling per se. Now, we do have foreign aid that we give to certain countries. We did cut foreign aid in the continuing resolution. Foreign aid will continue to be cut in the budget that has been proposed because I think many of us agree that until you're taking care of those at home, you shouldn't necessarily be taking care of those somewhere else. Now there are certain countries that we will continue to give foreign aid to because they're very important strategic allies. The nation of Israel being a prime example as the sole democracy in the Middle East. But we are critically evaluating our foreign aid programs and looking at where we're going to cut foreign aid, especially to countries that may not be so nice to us.
Why are farm subsidies still handed out to farms with food prices going through the roof, non-operating farms?
Great question. The farm subsidy issue also came up as a rider to one of the continuing resolutions. It has been, that rider did not pass. However, there are bills making their way through the appropriate committees to start reevaluating farm subsidies and looking at curtailing farm subsidies, not just to non-operating farms, but to those operating farms that are making hundreds of millions of dollars. They certainly don't seem to think, that we don't think they need a subsidy anymore. I mean, those subsidies started for the small mom and pop 20, 40 acre farm. And now they are multinational conglomerates that are getting these subsidies. It's time to reel them back in, and we are looking at that with certain pieces of legislation.
Several ads have come out talking about, and this one named you directly, about the budget, about Paul Ryan's budget. One thing said that Paul Ryan's budget said that seniors would get $6,000 more money for Medicare, and also the middle class will pay more and the rich will pay less. What are you doing to combat these lies?
Just say it like it is, Captain. Here's the issue with this budget. Certainly, from the moment it dropped, the Democrats, I'll tell you one thing the Democrats do is they've got a great PR machine. Their spin started before the ink on the page was even dry. about this budget, with a lot of lies. I'll just call it like it is, with a lot of lies. Number one, when they talk about the tax issue, here's what the tax issue is in the budget, is that it flattens the tax rates and it broadens the tax base. You realize that there are people today in the United States who pay absolutely no taxes who get $2,000 back at the end of the year on their income tax return. We think that everybody's got to have some skin in the game. I don't care if you're paying $1, but you should be paying something if everybody else is paying. And that's what this bill does. It makes everybody have some skin in the game. So what it does is it brings the top tax rate down to 25%. It broadens the tax base so that everybody pays into it. And it also closes, see, they don't talk about this. It closes loopholes, deductions, and subsidies for big business, so those multinational conglomerates that are making billions of dollars and pay no taxes will start paying some taxes. Okay, that's the part that they leave out. So that's the tax piece to that bill. So that's why they're saying the middle class is going to pay more. But I think the middle class is just, it's not the middle class really, because the tax rates are going down for everybody. The top tax rate will be 25%. Kicking seniors to the curb. That's their big one. I talked earlier about the budget and the importance of entitlement reform. Now, I'll tell you, there's a lot of things out there saying that we're going to decrease Social Security. There is nothing in this budget that touches Social Security. Nothing. There is a statement that says, if the trustees of Social Security determine that Social Security is bankrupt, is insolvent, that the Congress and the White House must address the issues that, through law. That's all it says. It's a trigger mechanism to make sure if something happens, it gets fixed. There is no other change to Social Security in this budget. Medicare. If you're 55 or older, you will not see anything change ever. Ever. The Medicare that you have is the Medicare that you keep. Nothing will change. For people 54 and less, Medicare will go to a premium. It's not a voucher. It's not you're going to get so much money and say, go buy insurance. It's a premium assistance program. How many people in here are Medicare D? It's like Medicare D. You go out, you pick a plan, the plan that works for you, and then the premium assistance goes directly to the plan. It'll be guaranteed. People are saying, well, when you're a senior and you're sick, who's going to give you insurance? It's guaranteed issue. Just like Medicare, it's guaranteed issue. So you'll go out, you'll pick a plan, the subsidy will go to the insurance company, you will have a plan of your choice to see the doctor of your choosing that has the coverages you want and gives you more choice. Medicare D is the only federal health care program that's ever come in under budget. Okay? This is kind of based on Medicare D. So it gives you more control. It gives you the assistance that you need, and you get more assistance as you get sicker. If you get sicker and you have more costs, your premium subsidy goes up. If you're a very low-income senior, you will get a health savings account, pre-funded, to help you with your out-of-pocket expenses. Okay? Medicare spending continues to increase every year under this budget. It just doesn't increase like this, like it does under Obama's budget. It increases like this. So there's still more money going to Medicare every year under this budget. Those are the two big things that the Democrats are trying to use as scare tactics.
Now that we are sending Predator drones over Libya, does this take away from the support of our troops in Afghanistan?
Great question. I was very vocal about us going into Libya. I was against it. I felt that at a time when we still have troops in 2 other countries fighting very tough wars. And I'll tell you, it's still hot over there. I'll tell you, when I was in Afghanistan, went to a memorial service for 6 soldiers that were killed just a couple days earlier. We still have sons and daughters dying in both Afghanistan and Iraq. And then this president decided, without consulting with Congress, that he was going to commit more dollars and resources. They said, well, troops aren't going in. Well, tell that to the pilots that had to punch out over Libya. Whenever you put forces and resources in harm's way, there's the opportunity somebody's going to get hurt. And he did that without the consent of Congress. He did that in violation of the War Powers Act. And we only have so many drones in the inventory. And if you're pulling some out to go start flying missions in Libya, which is an expansion of the mission that we had, We were supposed to enforce a no-fly zone. That's all he committed U.S. to. Now all of a sudden we're doing direct action with drones. And I'll tell you, I draw the analogy to Bosnia. People remember back in 1995-96 when we went into Bosnia. It was a humanitarian crisis. Sound familiar? We were going to enforce a no-fly zone to protect the citizens. Sound familiar? There were going to be no troops on the ground. Sound familiar? Today, 2011, we still have troops in Bosnia. Okay? That is my concern. So I do believe it detracts from the missions that we're already undertaking in Afghanistan and Iraq. I think it jeopardizes the folks that we have over there. I continue to oppose our involvement in Libya. We're still trying to decide in the House what's the best way to address that issue.
Can you give us an update on the Sloan open pit mine? Do you know anything new on that?
I don't. I know we introduced the legislation to prohibit the Sloan pit mine. To the best of my knowledge, that legislation has passed, and that Sloan pit mine should be closed. There should be no more forward movement. But as it was mentioned earlier, nothing is ever dead. I mean, no bill ever dies until the gavel drops. So we will remain vigilant. I know Congressman Heller, certainly, hopefully soon to be Senator Heller, is vigilant at keeping his eyes on that pit mine, because obviously that's in his district. And we will remain vigilant to see if it tries to raise its ugly head in another piece of legislation somewhere.
Does Congress have concerns, and is it working on a game plan if China, as the IMF predicts, surpasses the U.S. in influence in the next few years?
Wow. God, I hope so. But if they do, they haven't told me about it. No, I think we certainly are concerned about China's growing influence. In fact, I can tell you, here's a real-world example that I just got last week. So we were visiting with Prime Minister Gilani of Pakistan, and he's telling us how great things are. And then I go visit with our CIA folks in Pakistan, and he's telling me what an out-and-out liar he is, because they've got the intercepts to tell me what he's really saying. Then we go visit with President Karzai in Afghanistan to get his take on what's going on. And he tells us that Prime Minister Gilani is trying to play China off of us with Afghanistan, saying you should back away from the U.S. China can come in here and give you everything that you need. You should be more concerned about what your local neighbors are thinking than what the U.S. is thinking. So dump them, come with us, and we'll have China take care of you. That's China's growing influence. Okay? Like I said, we borrow 42 cents of every dollar. Most of it's coming from China. They are the single largest foreign holder of our debt. If they ever decided to call in the note, we'd have to sell in California. It might not be a bad idea, but say, okay, you can have California. Let's call it even. But it is a big issue that we're facing.
Actually, I'm just low. What about the repeal of the 3% sales tax on the sale of a home, which sellers will have to pay, which is in the health care bill? Is there any progress?
Sure. This one is loud. Yeah, that tax, it's not specifically on homes. It's a capital gains tax. So it goes on anything that you have as a capital gains. It's an additional 3.9% that's added on to your tax rate. So if you sold a home, and it's for those that make over $250,000. But if you sell your home and you realize a profit that's over that, which probably not many of us would be doing right now, but at some point in time, if you were to realize that much profit in your home sale, you would be taxed at a capital gains rate with that additional 3.9%, which is incredible that they put that into a healthcare bill. Now don't forget, we did vote in the House to repeal the healthcare bill. We repealed it. The problem is, Harry on the other side isn't going to do anything with it. So we are in the process of dismantling it piece by piece. We got rid of the 1099 provision for small businesses that we're going to have to report everything they bought from anybody, goods or services. We are working on taking out other pieces. There were other pieces that we were able to affect in the budget deal, the continuing resolution deal that we made. We are looking at those pieces and we're trying to attach them to every must-pass piece of legislation to start pulling them out.
Great. Who's that? You talked earlier about one up or down vote. Can you explain to people what exactly is an up or down vote?
Well, the up or down vote issue is important in the Senate, because the Senate's got a whole crazy set of rules. For a bill to come to a vote, you got to vote to bring the bill to a vote in the Senate, basically is what you got to do. And it takes 60 senators to evoke what's called cloture, which then says, okay, 60 of us agree to bring the bill to a vote. And then you need a simple majority to pass the bill. Well, if you had 60 people bring it to the vote, odds are the bill's going to pass. The problem is when we only have 47 Republicans in the Senate, it's difficult to get our bills, the things that we want to see, to cloture, to meet that 60 vote mark. So an up or down vote means you don't have to hit that 60. It's an up or down vote. The bill goes to the floor, you vote, simple majority, pass or fail. That's why it was important to get the Obamacare and Planned Parenthood as up or down votes in the Senate. So now it's not the procedure of trying to get 60 first. Up or down vote. 51 people vote for it, it passes. And again, more importantly, it puts those 23 Democratic senators on record on those two issues.
Can Congress do anything regarding the quote-unquote money laundering through the unions for contributions to the Democratic Party?
As a person who received a large portion of that money directed towards him, I wish there was. But it goes both ways. You know, the issue is if we attack the unions and say, look, you can't use union money, then they're going to say, well, then you can't use corporate money. And then there's also, it's couched in the First Amendment, that people should have the right to, speak their mind, even if that speaking their mind is through their purse. The big issue that we're trying to push is that unions should be forced to tell their members how much of their dues are being used for political action and give their members the right to say, well, I don't want to pay that portion of my dues. That's how we can affect it. I know there's a lot of hard-working union members in Clark County that are conservatives, and they are very upset at the fact that their dues are going to support liberal candidates without an opportunity for them to say, I don't want to pay that portion of my dues. So that's the way we're going to try to attack it.
Several questions about who you would like to see run for president.
It's way too early.
Yeah.
Way too early. But those of you who've known me through the years know who I supported in 2008. I will support that person again in 2012. I do believe that he is the best person for the job, especially at a time when our biggest crisis is an economy. We need somebody who is a very sound businessman. But I won't throw any names out just yet.
What do you know about House Bill 1388? Do you know anything about that?
Does it have a name?
Does it have a name?
What does it have to do with?
He doesn't remember. I already asked Bob. All right, next question.
Oh, that was the last Congress, right? We haven't taken action on HR. We haven't taken action on a bill 1338.
1388.
Oh, 1388. I'll tell you, we haven't taken action on approving money for anything for Palestinians. I can tell you that because that one would have. I probably wouldn't have been able to go to bed at midnight had I read that one. Okay, I'll check into it, but it hasn't crossed my desk. We haven't taken action on it. It may still be in committee.
Can you give us an example of, it's kind of a generic question, of what the most money has been spent to put us in this great debt? Is it, somebody wants just an understanding.
Sure, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I've sat through Budget 101 4 times since I got there to try to figure out what's going on, with the budget that we have, but it is the most complicated thing I've ever seen. Without a doubt, the single largest cost driver in our federal government budget is the federal involvement and cost of health care that the federal government provides. Don't forget, Medicaid, Medicare, VA, active duty military. When you look at the just generic costs of the price of goods and services for anybody, the largest driver of your cost and the largest increase in inflation is in healthcare. And because the federal government is the single largest payer for healthcare in this nation, it is the single largest driver of cost to the federal government. That's why Medicaid and Medicare are parts of the budgetary reform bill that we've introduced.
Would Congress consider means testing for Social Security and Medicare?
I don't think there would be means testing, and I'm just talking speculatively. I don't think you'd see means testing for Social Security. That's a benefit that you've paid into. So you can't say I've paid in X number of dollars over 30 years, and now you want a means testing on how much I get back? I mean, that's a benefit that I paid into. There have been discussions that for more affluent seniors, that their premium subsidy under the new program might be less. But it's one of those ways that, again, we can either increase Medicare costs like this and continue debt, or we can increase it like this and try to get our debt under control.
Several questions about raising the age of Social Security. Is that
raising the age of Social Security is always something that I'm not that close yet, but look at raising the age of Social Security. Again, any changes we make are going to be generational changes, and I think that's important. It's important to underscore that people that are close to or are collecting a benefit will not see anything change. You've planned your retirement, your golden years around this benefit that you were supposed to have. It would not be in anybody's interest to come now and pull that rug out from underneath you and say, well, you thought you were going to get this much in Social Security, now we're going to give you this. Or you're 66 and a half, you were about to take full Social Security at 67, we're going to raise the age to 72. We won't do that. Look at what Social Security started in 1935. Right? You had to be 65 to collect back then when the program started. Full retirement was 65. You know what the average lifespan was in 1935? It was 61. 61. So the average lifespan was actually less than when full retirement age was. Now fast forward to where we are today. Since 1935, we've raised the retirement age a whopping 2 years to 67. Okay? What's the average lifespan today? 78. You take men and women and put them together and average it, 78. So before you were dying 4 years before you collect, now you're living for 11 years after you start collecting, and now people living 80s, 90s. Nobody thought that people would be collecting Social Security for 20 years. That's why it's going to go bust in about 20 years. So the idea of retirement age has been talked about. The idea of, and I'm not a supporter of this, I'm not going to raise taxes, but the idea of raising the cap, so right now I think it's $106,000, and then after that we don't get taxed on Social Security. There's been talk about raising the cap. My concern is that if Social Security was such a big deal, in the last Congress they gave employers a tax holiday for Social Security. Right, you didn't have to pay the 6.5% if you were an employer. This year they've given employees a 2% credit off Social Security. If you want to give a tax credit, why didn't you give it off the federal income tax? Why are you doing it off Social Security, a program that we already know is going to go bust? The Democrats are trying to say they're trying to save it, but they're the ones that are actually taking money out of it by giving tax credits against Social Security. Nobody's talked about that, though.
Do you feel, since you've been in Congress, that it is possible to get things done? I mean, the questions are, do you feel like you will, and what can we do to help?
Well, here it is. You can get things done if you're willing to negotiate. Now, I'll tell you, there's a lot of conservatives out there said November 2nd was a mandate. Don't negotiate, hold tough, don't give in. You should have closed down government as opposed to passing that CR. Let me tell you, I looked at the numbers. It actually costs you more money to close government down than it does to keep it open. It does. Because there's startup costs, there's contracts that go into abeyance that you then have to pay with interest. It costs you more money to close it down. It might be very symbolic, but it's not very cost effective. I think we can get things done. We got the continuing resolution passed to our benefit. $40 billion worth of cuts. $315 billion over a decade, where before the Democrats were saying no cuts at all, keep it 2010. We actually rolled spending back to pre-stimulus, pre-bailout levels. That was our goal, pre-stimulus, pre-bailout, and we got there. Again, it's a hard market, but that's what this process is. And anybody who says otherwise, I believe, is an ostrich with their head in the sand. You've got to, hey, look, everybody here who's been in business, you've been in negotiations. You start high, knowing that you want to wind up about here, right? And that's what you've got to do to get things done. We can dig our heels in and say we're not going to compromise, and then nothing will get done. So you've got to be, we're in the majority now. We're in the majority. Being in the majority means you govern. It's not being in the minority throwing bombs at the opponents. It's now our responsibility to govern. It's a big responsibility. And we have undertaken it, and we're doing the best we can to move an agenda forward that's in the best interest of our nation.
What can we do? What can each of us do to help you accomplish your goals?
Well, first you got to make sure I get back in 2012. As you know, they're already, November 4th they started gunning for me. There were ads out on November 4th. There's people in Carson City that are turned out on the other side of the aisle that have already said they're thinking about getting into this race. It's what you always do. It's what you do for all Republican candidates. You spread the gospel according to the Republican book. You go out, you knock doors, you make phone calls, you help raise money. Just what you did for John. Just what you did for me before. It's what you do for Mike Mayberry. It's what we do for all of our conservative candidates. God bless you for what you do. Before this group came about, I was a member of the Henderson Republican Women's Group. They were the first group to endorse me. And that was in a primary against another Republican. And I will never forget their support, their early support, because I believe that's what gave me the motivation and put me over the edge to succeed in that primary race. There is no harder working group. I go to the men's club, but that's like a social hour. Have you ever see anybody from the men's club come out and knock on a door, call, dial a phone? It's the women's clubs that do the work. So just keep doing what you do, and that'll make sure that I get back in 2012.
Along that line, would you consider opening a local post office box to which donations could be mailed?
We have a P.O. box.
I love a question that can be answered.
You go to our campaign website, which is heckfornevada.com. There's a contribute button there. If you want to do by credit card online, you can. If you want to mail something, there's an address there. It's the same stuff that we used in the previous campaign. It's still there. If you need the address, if you don't have computer access, I'm happy to give it to you while I'm here.
Joe, also, would you talk a little bit about your mobile office that you have?
We do. We have mobile office hours, something that we started out of our district office. I understand people in Henderson thought I was abandoning them when I put my office over on West Sunset. But you got to understand, I have the most populous congressional district in the country. 1.1 million people. Okay? I am 400,000 people over where I'm supposed to be. Really. The most populous in the country. It goes from Mesquite to Laughlin, to Indian Springs, out Blue Diamond, out to Centennial Hills, Summerlin. I'm all over. So I figured my answer was to pick an office that was equally uncomfortable for everybody. And so we said, where would that be? Oh, that would be right here on West Sunset, and that's where we are. But realizing that not everybody can get out and get to us, we have started a program where we will come out to you. And so we do mobile office hours. They're listed on our official website, which is heck.house.gov. We go out to Boulder City, we go out to Mesquite, we go to Moapa Valley, we go out to Summerlin, we come out to Anthem. We bring the office to you on a regular. The city of Henderson has been great. The city of Henderson has actually given us an office in City Hall that we have as our office. So it's not just setting up a folding table. They gave us office space. So we're out. It's on a varying schedule. The more populated areas we get to more often. But we do try to cover the four corners. We go down to Laughlin. So if you have something that you need and you can't get to us, check the website and see when the next mobile office hours will be in your neighborhood, and come and see us there.
They do come to Sun City Anthem once a month. Third Wednesday? Third Wednesday of the month. It's in the 10 to 2? I'm not real sure the hours. It's in the lobby of the Anthem, the big building. And also we're working on getting like a room that you could go if you needed privacy. And the Republican Women's Club is going to be offering support for that. We'll be up there sitting with them while they're up there in case they do want to take someone for a private conversation. We keep the table going. So that's real good for people who aren't real mobile. They can get in and present a problem or an issue to Joe.
Right. And we bring the paperwork that we usually need. The thing is, if there's an issue that you're having and it requires personal information, we've got to get you to sign a release form so that we can then request the information. So most times, we'll have the release forms there. They'll do the initial case opening. They'll get you to sign the release form, and then we can start working on it. And then the next time we're back in your neighborhood, you can come and see us again. We can give you an update of where we are on your case. So it's an easier way to get things started on that initial visit.
Joe, that brings us to pretty much the end of the questions. You've done a great job. I want to say that watching the news and reading the papers, I despair greatly when I see what the mainstream media says and does, and I get so depressed. But listening to you today, I think if your entire district could have heard this speech today, you'd win in a landslide. It's so refreshing to hear someone who's really working for our conservative values.
Well, thanks, Kathy. I appreciate that. We're also trying to, we've got a great schedule, I guess you can call it, right? Well, it's a better schedule than it was last year. First of all, we worked this year in Congress. Last year they worked Tuesday to Thursday, didn't pass many bills, and then went home. This year we work Monday to Friday, and then every third to fourth week we have what's called a district work week, where we're back in our district office so that we can actually meet with people and go out and visit folks and come to clubs and do things that are important to make sure people know we haven't forgotten. Now, I've heard from people saying, Joe, you were a maniac on the campaign trail. You were everywhere. Haven't seen you since the election. Like, well, I'm in Washington. Come and visit me. But we are trying to make sure that we keep that presence. So every week that we're back, we're trying to do a town hall, a real town hall. And we're moving them around the valley. We're doing tele-town halls. I don't know if anybody been here has been called yet. We might not have hit this side of town yet. But we're doing telephone town halls while I'm in Washington. We dial out. We usually hit about 60,000 people on a call. Don't forget, I got 1.1 million. 60,000 people on a call. You get on, we talk a little bit, and then we open it up for questions. So we're trying to stay involved. The other thing I realized is that, we got a lot of crazy rules in the House. Now, I amassed a pretty extensive email list for those of you who were supporters during the campaign. I got like over 3,000 names in my email list on the campaign side. I can't use them on the House side. You have to specifically opt in to want to receive information. I just can't take that database and download it into the House files. So, if you're saying, Joe, I haven't gotten a newsletter in a while, that's because you haven't signed up on the official House email. So please go to heck.house.gov. On the top right-hand corner it says sign up for emails and put in your email. And then you'll start getting our newsletters that we're putting out.
And we'll put this in our newsletter so that all of our members will know exactly how to sign up.
Right. Again, I appreciate, first, all of you taking the time to be here this afternoon. Second, for putting up with me talking for so long. Third, for having such great questions, because they really were a good group of questions, a great cross-section of the issues that we're facing in Washington. But most of all, from the bottom of my heart, I would not have had 1,922 votes if it wasn't for those of you in this room. Okay? If it wasn't for those of you in this room and the people that you went and spoke to and the people that you made sure got out and voted, I probably wouldn't be standing before you today as your congressman. So, for all that you've done, for me, for all conservative candidates, for the college, let me tell you, I got to go off message. Mark Giavola is a rock star. Okay? He is a rock star. I thought Matt Jarson did a great job as president, and he did. But Mark has taken it to the next level as president of the College of Republicans, because he has held my former opponent I don't want to get on Mark's bad side, just let me tell you. I never want to be on his bad side. But he is a rock star for what he's done with the college Republicans. And they are now a formidable force on the campus of UNLV, which is a liberal bastion. So thank you, Mark, as well, for all you're doing, and the other college Republicans that are here with you. But for all that you do, for me, for all conservative candidates, God bless you. We would not be successful without your support. So please continue to do what you do best. That is, be women. Because you're hard workers. You know how to convince people to do things, especially the men. And I appreciate all that you do.
Before you quit, just had one more question come in. Do you have any idea if after redistricting, will you represent all of us?
I certainly hope so. I hope that there's a fair process. That's a big hope right now with both houses in Democratic control. But I met with Governor Sandoval yesterday when I was in Carson City, and he's going to make sure it's fair or he's going to veto it. And then it'll go to the courts, which is probably where it's going to wind up anyway. The premise that we are working on is we are trying not to have split municipalities, split communities. Because besides Dean and I splitting Anthem, we also split Mesquite. He has the north side of the 15 and I have the south side. So I have the front side of Anthem and he has the back side. So we are saying, look, the goal for everybody should be to have a unified voice. We have put that forward. Now I'm not lobbying I'm trying to be above the issue of redistricting, but we have certainly let them know that it's in the residents' best interest to have a unified neighborhood represented by one person and don't split them down the road.
Are you looking at a number figure? Are you giving them what you'd like as a maximum number of?
Well, that's set by, the target number is about 675 to 700,000 people per district with the addition of the new district. So that means I'm giving up 400,000 people. I don't know, hopefully there's 400,000 Democrats. I'm hoping. But unless they're conservative Democrats, I'll keep them. But we've got to, so that's the number that they're trying to shoot for the four districts.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big hand to a man who makes us all proud to be Republicans, Congressman Joe Heck.